The sound comes first. A rising howl, not thunder, not wind, an engine pushed past its limits. On the flight deck, men look up. The sky is a hard blue, empty for half a second longer than it should be. Then the shape appears. A single Japanese aircraft, burning oil, trailing smoke, diving straight down, no evasive turn, no hesitation. The alarm screams across the ship. General quarters, all hands. Too late. Impact. Steel folds inward like wet paper. The deck jumps beneath their boots as if the ocean itself has struck back. A wall of fire rolls across the planks. Black smoke swallowing aircraft, men, and shouted orders. A bomb detonates below the flight deck. The air smells of aviation fuel and burned paint. Hot fragments rain down, clattering against helmets, tearing through flesh. A sailor is thrown against a gun mount, his breath ripped out of him. Another disappears into the smoke without a sound. Somewhere deep inside the hull, the ship groans. A long, aching sound, like an animal refusing to die. The engines keep turning. Through fire and screaming metal, the carrier holds course. She does not slow. She does not turn away. This is USS Essex, and this is what survival sounds like. She was conceived in the shadow of burning ships. December 1941. Pearl Harbor still smoldered. Oil slicks drifted across quiet water, and the silhouettes of battleships lay broken and half-submerged like gravestones. The United States Navy did not mourn for long. It could not afford to. What had been lost could not be raised quickly enough. So something new had to be built, something larger, faster, harder to kill. The answer was not a battleship. It was an idea. A ship designed not to trade broadsides, but to project force far beyond the horizon. A floating airfield. A vessel that could take punishment and keep launching aircraft while the deck was still warm from explosions. That idea became Essex. Her keel was laid down in Newport News, Virginia, surrounded by the hammering rhythm of wartime industry. Steel plates were welded together day and night. Sparks filled the air like artificial stars. She was not graceful, she was practical. Thick armor where it mattered. Wide flight deck, powerful engines driving her through the ocean at over 30 knots, fast enough to outrun death, or chase it. Every measurement carried a lesson written in blood from earlier losses. Redundancy, compartmentalization, damage control routes planned before the first sailor ever stepped aboard. Essex was built with one unspoken expectation. She would be hit. Inside her hull, narrow passageways twisted like arteries. Ventilation hummed constantly, carrying the smell of fresh paint, oil, and hot metal. The ship was alive before she ever went to war. When she was commissioned in December 1942, her decks were crowded with men barely old enough to shave. Farm boys, factory workers, students who had traded classrooms for steel corridors. They learned quickly how to run in blackout conditions, how to seal bulkheads while fire roared on the other side, how to move wounded friends without stopping the ship's mission. At night, the Pacific stretched out endlessly around them. Black water, no landmarks, no mercy. Essex did not promise safety. She promised a chance to strike back, a chance to survive long enough to strike again. As she turned west and left the American coastline behind, there were no speeches, only the low vibration of engines traveling through the deck, and the understanding shared by every man aboard that this ship was not built for glory. She was built to replace the dead. And soon, the ocean would test her. The first combat launch comes before dawn. The air on the flight deck is cold and damp, clinging to skin and canvas. Red lights glow faintly, barely enough to see the outlines of aircraft lined up nose to tail. Engines cough, then roar awake, one by one, shaking the deck beneath them. For many of the men aboard Essex, this is the first time the war feels real. Not in newspapers, not in training films, but here, where the smell of exhaust mixes with salt air and fear. Deck crews move with rehearsed precision. Hands signal. Wheels are chocked. Propellers blur into invisible discs. A single mistake here does not wound, it kills. Pilots sit low in their cockpits, goggles pulled tight, knuckles white around the controls. They do not look back. There is nothing behind them but steel and ocean. The ship turns into the wind, full power. One by one, aircraft are released. They race down the deck, engines screaming, the end rushing toward them faster than instinct says is safe. Then, the sudden drop. For a breathless moment, each plane hangs between flight and death before clawing into the sky. The deck crews exhale. They do not cheer. There is more work to do. This is 1943. The Pacific War is far from decided. Essex's first major strikes hit Japanese positions scattered across island chains that look insignificant on a map, but cost lives to take. Small dots of land surrounded by endless water, fortified, defended, waiting. From the bridge, officers track the air groups until they fade into the distance. Then comes the waiting. Minutes stretch, hours. Below decks, men clean, eat, sleep where they can. Some write letters they may never send. Others stare at nothing, listening to the steady pulse of the engines, grounding themselves in its rhythm. The ocean remains calm, too calm. Radar operators scan their scopes endlessly, eyes burning from concentration. Every blip is questioned. Every shadow could be incoming. Then the call comes. Aircraft returning. The flight deck snaps back to life. Crews run. Stretchers are readied. Fire teams stand by, hoses charged. The first planes appear on the horizon, small and damaged. Some trail smoke. One limps in on a single engine, its propeller chewing the air unevenly. Landings are brutal. Tires slam onto steel. Tailhooks catch wires with bone-jarring force. Or miss entirely, sending aircraft screaming toward the barricades. One plane crashes short, bursting into flames. The fire is attacked instantly. Foam, water, shouted commands. A pilot is dragged free, burned alive, shaking. Not all of them return. The empty spaces on the deck say more than any report ever could. That night, the ship runs dark. No lights, no signals, just black water and darker sky. Men lie in their bunks, fully dressed, boots nearby. Every sound carries meaning now. A distant splash, a creak of metal, the low hum of machinery. Essex has drawn first blood, not cleanly, not without cost. She has learned what it means to fight in the Pacific, where distance is measured in hours of flight, and survival depends not on bravery alone, but on endurance. The war has noticed her, and it will come again. There is no such thing as a quiet day anymore. By mid-1943, Essex no longer feels new. Paint is scorched. Deck planks are stained dark where fuel and blood have soaked into the grain. The ship smells permanently of oil, sweat, and hot steel. She has become what she was built to be, a floating airfield and a target. Operations blur together. Kwajalein, Truk, the marshals. Names passed down through orders and maps, each one meaning another cycle of launch, strike, recover, repeat. The flight deck never truly rests. Aircraft are pushed, fueled, armed, repaired, and launched again in an endless rhythm. Bombs are rolled into place, their metal casings cold to the touch despite the tropical heat. Aviation gasoline sloshes through hoses, one spark away from catastrophe. Below decks, sleep comes in fragments. 20 minutes here, an hour there. Men learn to eat fast, shower faster, and fall asleep wherever their bodies finally give up. The ocean does not care. Heat presses down during the day, turning steel compartments into ovens. At night, sudden rain squalls drench the deck, leaving it slick and treacherous under running boots. The ship pitches and rolls, never quite still, even when the sea looks calm. Every launch is a calculation. Wind speed, deck angle, aircraft weight. A fraction wrong means an aircraft plunging into the sea, taking a pilot with it. Sometimes it happens. A plane misses the wire and slams into the barricade. Metal screams, canvas tears. Crewmen dive clear as fire blossoms instantly. Damage control reacts without hesitation. Hoses snap open. Foam floods the deck. Burning wreckage is shoved over the side as quickly as human hands allow. There is no time to stop. More aircraft are already circling overhead, low on fuel, waiting for a place to land. Radar becomes a god. Operators stare at glowing green screens, eyes tracking tiny movements that could mean the difference between preparation and surprise. A contact appears, disappears, appears again. Enemy aircraft. The alarm cuts through the ship like a blade. General quarters, all hands. Guns elevate. 5-inch mounts swing toward the sky. Oerlikon's and Beaufort's crews grip their weapons, fingers numb, mouths dry. The sky fills with black bursts as anti-aircraft fire reaches upward. Spent shell casings clatter across the deck, piling up around boots. Some attackers break through. They come in low and fast, engines screaming, sunlight flashing off wings. Tracers tear through the air. One plane disintegrates mid-dive. Another keeps coming, smoking, stubborn. It releases its bomb and pulls up at the last possible second. The explosion erupts close aboard, lifting the ship and slamming her back into the sea. Men are thrown off their feet. Bulkheads shudder. Essex absorbs the blow. Below the waterline, compartments flood and are sealed. Pumps engage. Damage reports flow upward in clipped, controlled voices. The system works because it has to. Between attacks, life continues in strange, quiet moments. A shared cigarette in a passageway. A letter read twice, then folded carefully and tucked away. A joke told badly, but laughed at anyway. No one talks about fear. It is understood. Essex steams on, scarred but operational. Her air group grows sharper, her crew faster, harder, quieter. She is no longer just a ship. She is a machine under constant siege. Held together by discipline, exhaustion, and men who know that stopping means sinking. and somewhere ahead, beyond the next horizon, the war is changing. The sky itself is about to fall. It begins without warning, not with a radar contact, not with distant dots on the horizon. It begins with silence. The sky above Essex is a pale, washed-out blue, almost peaceful. The flight deck is crowded. Aircraft are being spotted for the next launch, engines idle. Deck crews move through familiar motions, muscle memory guiding every step. Then someone points. A shape breaks through the clouds, low, fast, coming straight in. No formation, no attempt to escape, just intent. The alarm tears through the ship. General quarters, all hands, all hands. Anti-aircraft guns swing upward, barrels snapping into position. Fire erupts instantly, black bursts punching holes in the sky. Tracers reach for the incoming aircraft like burning fingers. The plane does not turn away. Its engine howls, pushed beyond reason. Oil smoke trails behind it, thick and black. A kamikaze. Men on deck scatter for cover, diving behind parked aircraft and steel fittings. There is nowhere far enough, nowhere safe. The aircraft grows impossibly large in a heartbeat. Impact. The explosion slams into the flight deck with a violence that steals breath and balance. Steel plates buckle. Aircraft are torn from their chocks and hurled aside like toys. Fire rolls outward in a living wave. A bomb detonates below the deck, ripping through compartments packed with fuel and ammunition. The shock wave punches upward, lifting men off their feet and smashing them back down again. The air fills with burning debris. Fragments of propeller, twisted aluminum, pieces of wing still on fire. Screams cut through the smoke, then fade. Flames race along spilled gasoline, licking at aircraft tires, climbing fuselages. The heat is immediate and unbearable, searing skin through clothing. A sailor crawls across the deck, helmet gone, face blackened, dragging another man who no longer moves. A hose team fights its way forward, blinded by smoke, boots slipping on burning fuel. Below decks, lights go out. The ship shudders as compartments flood and fires erupt simultaneously. Bulkhead doors slam shut. Men are sealed away from one another in choking darkness. Damage control reports come in fragmented. Fire on the flight deck, fire in the hangar. Casualties unknown. Essex slows, just slightly. For a moment, it feels like the ship is deciding whether to live. Another aircraft screams overhead, narrowly missing the mast. Anti-aircraft fire continues, relentless, angry. The flight deck is unrecognizable now. What was ordered chaos minutes ago is now pure destruction. And still, the engines turn. Deep inside the hull, turbines keep driving the screws through the water. Power flows. Pumps engage. Fire mains hold pressure. The ship refuses to stop. As smoke pours skyward and the sea rushes past her hull, USS Essex remains afloat. Burning, wounded, alive. The sky has fallen, and she is still standing. There is no pause to grieve. Fire still burns. Steel is still hot enough to blister skin through gloves. The deck trembles underfoot as the ship fights to keep moving. Damage control teams are already inside the smoke. They move low, crouched, faces wrapped in soaked cloth, eyes burning. Hoses snake behind them, heavy and alive, fighting back as pressure surges through the lines. Water hammers against flames, turning instantly to steam that scalds exposed skin. Orders are shouted, then lost. From here on, it is instinct. A compartment door is too hot to touch. They cool it, seconds at a time, before forcing it open. Inside, the air is thick and unbreathable. They find men. Some are alive, burned and silent with shock. Others do not move at all, their bodies twisted where the blast threw them. There is no ceremony, no last words. The living are pulled free first. Stretchers appear from nowhere, carried by hands that do not stop shaking. Medics work in passageways slick with water and fuel, kneeling in darkness broken only by emergency lights. Morphine is given sparingly. Bandages run out quickly. Above them, the flight deck is being reborn. Burning aircraft are pushed over the side, one by one, disappearing into the sea with hissing finality. A wrecked elevator is cleared just enough to seal it shut. Fire mains are rerouted around ruptured sections without shutting down the system. Every action has one purpose: keep the ship alive. Men work knowing another attack could come at any moment, knowing that one overlooked flame could reach a magazine, knowing that if the ship stops, she dies. Someone starts counting, not the dead, the minutes. 15 minutes since impact, 30. The fires begin to shrink, not gone, but contained. Smoke thins just enough to see faces again, blackened, exhausted, older than they were an hour ago. Reports finally stabilize, propulsion intact, steering responding, flight operations suspended. For now, the ship turns slightly into the wind, presenting the least damaged section of deck to the sky. Guns remain manned, eyes stay upward. Only when the last major fire is declared under control does the silence settle in. It is not peace, it is absence. Men sit where they stand, backs against bulkheads, helmets resting between their boots. Some stare at the deck, some stare at nothing at all. The ocean keeps moving past the hull, indifferent, endless. Essex is wounded, but breathing. And as night falls, temporary lighting casts long shadows across the scarred flight deck. Steel plates are warped, paint is gone. The air still smells of smoke and burned fuel, yet the deck is cleared, lines are rerun, equipment is staged. Someone chalks a crude landing line across the steel, not because aircraft will land tonight, but because tomorrow is already coming. USS Essex does not withdraw from the war. She adapts. And in doing so, she proves something the enemy will never fully understand. This ship is not held together by steel alone, but by men who refuse to let her die. Dawn breaks quietly. The Pacific stretches flat and gray, hiding yesterday's violence beneath its surface. Smoke still curls from scorched steel, rising slowly into the morning air. USS Essex steams on. Her speed is reduced but steady. Her silhouette is scarred, flight deck pocked and blackened where fire once ruled. To an outsider, she looks finished. To the men aboard her, she is alive. Temporary repairs continue as the ship moves. Welders work with shaking hands, sparks falling into the sea. Carpenters replace shattered planks. Electricians trace dead circuits through miles of cable. Everywhere there are reminders, an empty bunk, a helmet left where its owner will never return, burn marks that no amount of paint will ever fully hide. There is no announcement for the dead. Their names will be written later, far from here. Out here, the war allows only forward motion. Essex eventually turns east, bound for repairs. Not retreat. Maintenance. Because even wounded, she has done her job. She carried air power across an ocean that once belonged to someone else. She absorbed blows meant to break her, and she kept fighting long enough for others to advance. Months later, she will return, stronger, altered, her scars plated over, but never erased. She will launch aircraft again, she will be hit again, and again she will survive. When the war finally ends, Essex does not arrive home in triumphal silence. She comes back heavy with memory. Steel remembers. Every rivet holds vibration. Every deck plate knows the sound of running boots and falling bombs. Long after the guns fall silent, long after the Pacific forgets the men who crossed it, the truth remains. Victory was not forged only by firepower, but by endurance, by ships that refused to sink, by crews who refused to stop. USS Essex was one of them. And when the screen fades to black, what remains is not the roar of engines or the violence of impact. It is the steady, stubborn sound of a ship moving forward. Even when everything else is burning.